Welcome to Pathetic, the podcast. The gang is all here. It is one of the best couple of weeks of the year. We have March Madness. We have opening day. We have a packed show for you today. We're going to recap the first 4 days of March Madness. We're going to preview baseball for everybody. We have a jam-packed show for everyone here. The gang's all here, as I said. Please go and like and subscribe down in the corner. Our link tree's there. Check out our social media, Facebook, Instagram. I'm sure we could find some other ones that we could join at some point here. But Jeff, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, boys. First of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't say rest in peace to the great Chuck Norris. As you guys know, I'm a huge boxing, mixed martial arts fan. Chuck Norris was an absolute icon and a sports icon in a way too, right? He did some gym equipment, martial arts. So rest in peace to the great Chuck. Dodgeball. He did. He was a ref or a judge in dodgeball.
Yes.
So rest in peace to the great Chuck Norris. But boys, spring is in the air. Summer's around the corner, which means baseball is coming up and March Madness we're right in the thick of it. So Uncle Ted, how we doing, buddy?
Doing good, bud. Yeah. R.I.P. to Chuck. We have Chuck on in this house every day, and Peachy watches Walker, Texas Ranger.
Great show.
It was a great show. It really was a great show. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm kind of excited for baseball. You know, I like some of the move the Mets did. You know that I'm missing Pete Alonso still. It's going to be weird to see him in that all uniform, but I'm psyched up. Guys, I got a confession to make. I don't think I saw 3 minutes of NCAA action live.
Really?
I don't know why. It's like I don't know what it was. I couldn't sit there and watch it.
It gets exciting now as opposed to, like the Sweet 16 and on is right. Yeah. Now it gets better.
Well, I watched enough for both of you guys combined because I literally watched every second of every single game all 4 days. So it literally like 36 straight hours of basketball between the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I hit the wall at about 9 o'clock on Friday night when there was about 4.5 games left in the first round. I hit that like mile 20 marathon wall where I just needed to like rally. So I just did a quick Jack and Coke at the bar at the casino, and I was rallying and I was back in it at the end here. But curious your guys' thoughts on the first 2 rounds. I mean, it's pretty chalky in terms of not a lot of upsets, a couple of big ones, but once we get down to the Sweet 16, we have, a lot of the really good teams are still left in this thing. But curious on everybody's thoughts on the first 2 rounds.
Well, listen, I have to talk about my alma mater, St. John's, and listen, I'll admit, I'm absolutely 100% a parachute St. John's fan. I wasn't on the front lines watching every St. John's game this year like I would if it was, the Giants or the Yankees. But, I think outside of you, Mike, and maybe a few other people, we're all kind of the same, right? We want our brackets to win. And if we went to that school, we'll watch those games and kind of get into it. But listen, that was a great game if you guys watched it. Right. And I was a little worried, in the beginning of the game, it felt like St. John's was chucking way too many 3-pointers, right? Almost recklessly, even though Hopkins did have 6 3-pointers in the game, which you can ultimately say actually probably won the game, right? But their defense from start to finish was spectacular, right? If you watch the game, Kansas was having trouble just getting the ball in bounds after a point, right? And in the first half, even though they had an 8-point lead, St. John's did, I felt like it should have been at least a 16-point lead the way that defense was playing, but they just were chucking up way too many threes, in my opinion. Like they really were playing reckless. But look, be that as it may, look, Pitino has this team ready. I mean, they look prepared, right? And despite the fact that we know, look, they were disrespected as far as the seeding goes. We talked about that last week. I feel like this team, they almost feel like they have something to prove. And I think that was the message that this coach is delivering in the locker room. Instead of saying, oh, feel bad for ourselves, join the fans saying that we got screwed. They said, no, let's go out there and prove it. And I feel like they're going to take that into the Duke game this Friday. So, look, Kansas, they should be embarrassed too, man. I mean, they had 16 turnovers in this game. 16, which is crazy. I think they were averaging like 7 or 8 per game. I got to go back and fact check that, but they were almost double what they usually do as far as turnovers. So I don't know if you can call that offensive ineptitude or St. John's just being defensively brilliant, but look, their defense it's a force to be reckoned with, man. It really is. And offensively, they have to get a little better. They scored 67 points, but defensively, they're going to be a problem. So, Uncle Ted, I know you didn't really watch most of the games, but I know you saw.
I saw the end of that game.
Recaps. Yeah.
The
end was great.
Yep.
I like St. John's. I root for St. John's. When I was much younger, I mean, St. John's, those teams with Lou Carnesecca coaching, Walter Berry, Mullins, and Ron Artest, those guys. I mean, when St. John's is winning, it's really exciting. It really is exciting.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Jeff, I think it was a combination of St. John's defense and maybe Kansas being a little sloppy. But you know what teams like Kansas find out when they play a team from the Northeast that plays really hard-nosed defense, that they're going to get their nose bloodied. And if they don't react to that, they're not going to win.
Mm-hmm.
There's only and I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. There's only so many times these referees can bail you out, because schools like Kansas and Duke and North Carolina and UCLA and Houston, and they all get bailed out by these referees all the time, especially the Southeast Conference schools, all the time.
Yep.
And, I think Duke is everybody, can St. John's beat Duke? I think Duke is running into a buzzsaw right now. I really do. And I think it's going to be really tough for them. I'm pretty confident. I think St. John's going to walk out of there with a win. I really do. I really do.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah. And it's exciting that arena in Washington is going to be electric on, I think it's Thursday night they play. Friday night. You're right. So you have the Duke St. John's game at first. And then following that, you have UConn versus Michigan State in another unbelievable matchup. And I like what UConn's coach said. Hurley said today he wants the St. John's fans and the UConn fans to band together and have that place be a Big East raucous atmosphere, so that way we get the showdown we want in the Elite Eight for a chance to go to the Final Four. So really, really great matchups there. I loved the 2 days of action. I think a lot of these games were competitive. I think we had a couple of buzzer beaters. We had that unbelievable finish in the Kentucky game in the first round that was out of control. You should have heard the place. It sounded like sounded like New Year's Eve when he hit that shot. The St. John's ending, there's a few big time, and that Louisville shot that was halfway down before, that they barely lost with. So it was just a great couple of, I'm sorry, the Vandy, not Louisville, where it was halfway down, half court, chuck to win the game at the end there. But what a great couple of days of basketball. If you're a college basketball fan, this is like your Christmas time. You're just enjoying these 4 days. One other thing I want to mention is, how come none of us ever decided we wanted to go to High Point University? Have you guys heard about this school, some of the amenities that they have on their campus?
No.
No, I know it's outside of Greensboro. It's not that
correct.
far from Greensboro, right?
It's down there, and it is. So they have a etiquette course where you get to go to a free steakhouse every week to learn how to eat properly when you're out socializing. They have like 4 restaurants on campus that you can eat at for free, like nice restaurants, not like, the Chick-fil-A that you would get in the dorm room or whatever. They also have a free ice cream truck for all of their students.
Oh, that's right up your alley.
It is like a vacation. It is ranked the #1 college campus in the country is High Point University's campus.
Which you would never
No.
think. High Point,
I know, right?
Most people haven't even heard of it, and I'm not
No.
that far away. So,
Yeah,
considering what you
close.
just told me, Mike, I might have to get like a fake student ID and get myself some free ice cream and
some free ice cream.
some
They
etiquette
have like
courses.
beautiful like resort pools there, and like
Wow.
all kinds of. It's such a nice atmosphere that it looked awesome on the TV that when they were showing it, but yeah, I definitely want to convince my daughter, hey, maybe you want to go to High Point just so we can go down and hang out there and have some steak and enjoy yourself for the 4 years, because that's what it's about.
You guys might see my mugshot in the High Point Times of having a fake ID going into the game. That actually sounds like a great time, man. I might have to check it out.
Yeah,
Mike, I did hear when Vanderbilt lost that Diego Pavia was saying, F that basketball, F that rim, F everything.
Definitely could have done that. But we have some great games coming up there. There's I think we got just enough upsets to make everybody feel good. You had the High Point one. You had Texas make it to the Sweet 16. You had Iowa beating Florida. So you had enough upsets, but you still have some really, really good teams that are going to be playing over the next couple of days here over the weekend. So you're really going to get some really good matchups coming up. And I love that they stop playing some of these Sweet 16 and Elite Eight games in football stadiums. They're playing them all in NBA arenas, which is nice because I feel like that's such a disadvantage to the teams that have to play in that, because your depth perception in an NFL stadium is way different than if you're playing in a normal basketball arena. So, that's going to certainly play into a factor in the Final Four, because that is at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indy is where the Final Four is going to be played. So that is something to definitely keep an eye on. And guys, I actually found my betting strategy that's actually worked when it comes to March Madness. And it actually played out really well on Friday, because we were playing with some stuff on Thursday. We tried it on Friday and it actually did really well. So for the first round games, it's the first half under on all of those games, because everybody's nervous. It's March Madness. Everybody's got a little jittery going on. So you bet the first half under when it comes to the points.
Yep.
You pick your team that you want to win against the spread, whoever that's going to be. Could be favorite underdog, wherever you want to go. And then you take the over in the overall game. And those paid out anywhere between 12 and 14 to 1.
Three-way parlay.
Three parlay, correct.
Wow.
And they paid out between 12 and 14 to 1. And I think I hit 3 of them or 4 of them on Friday. So, it was fun because you were kind of rooting on both sides. You wanted to see some things, and it was just so much fun. Shout out to Dennis, Spencer, and Finnegan, who were hanging out with me for those 3 days in the casino. And shout out Wind Creek, because they did such a great job there. It was the food was great, the atmosphere was great. It was such a good time. So definitely looking forward to the weekend and seeing some more tournaments here. And my bracket's actually not completely busted yet. So I don't know about you guys, but
yeah, I didn't do a bracket, but this is where it gets exciting for me. I watched some games in the first round, second round, but for me, the Sweet 16 is really when it starts getting exciting. And I actually like it when it's chalky, because I want to see the best teams play, right? And I want to see 1 or 2 potential Cinderella stories, like when St. Peter's a couple of years ago, we were all rooting for them, right? Uncle Ted, we have a family tie to that school. So you always want to see that one underdog and potentially, that Rocky Balboa college basketball story. But when, the Sweet 16 is chalky, that's when you get the best games. I'm looking at them right now, like Iowa, Nebraska, that should be good. St. John's Duke is going to be great. I think that's going to be the best game, I think. I really do.
That'll be the highlight.
Because this is the first time St. John's got to the Sweet 16 since 1999, right? And Uncle Ted, you said it. I mean, when St. John's is in it, especially for the area that we're in New York, or that I was in. It's exciting, and especially with this coach who completely turned this team around. Mike, I know you're a huge college basketball guy, so I'll ask you, who do you have winning that game, St. John's or Duke?
So I actually have St. John's winning that game. I think that Duke had a really hard time against Siena in that first round. I think some of those injuries that Duke has been dealing with are going to come back to haunt them once they get through a couple of the tough teams. And St. John's should not have been a 5 seed. I'm sorry, they just shouldn't have. They should have been either a 3 or a 4. And if they were a 4, then they probably would be in the same spot right now playing Duke. But if they're a 3, then there's a lot of other things that could go on there. But they ultimately got to where they wanted to be anyway, regardless of whether they were a 4 or a 5. They beat a very good Kansas team that I think a lot of people had maybe even beating Duke if they would have beaten St. John's. So I think Duke is vulnerable here. I think Duke is got the short end of the stick when it comes to the draft in terms of their region, because whoever wins that other game, the Michigan State-UConn game, is certainly going to give them a hell of a fight in the Elite Eight as well. So, but I love St. John's in that game. I think they have what it takes. And the difference between last year's St. John's team and this year's St. John's team is not that they played defense, because they played great defense last year. Mm-hmm. They have much better shooters this year than they had last year. So that's going to be the big difference for them. They're going to score enough so that way their defense is still going to rule the day, but they're going to score enough where they can still win the game and not have to rely on them getting hot from 3.
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, I think the coach has gotten, I don't want to say he's gotten better, but I think they've gotten better with him. I think the team is now more developed under Pitino. And you look at what happened at the end of this game. He trusted Dylan Darling, who had 0 points in the game. 0. Didn't make a shot. He went 0 for 5 or 0 for 6. I forget the exact number. And he told them, this is your ball. You're driving to the basket. You're not going to pass it once. You are driving to the net with 3 seconds left to win this game. And that shot, by the way, was not a layup. That was some kind of a weird hook, like to the side. I could take that shot 20 times and I'll miss it all 20 times and I won't even hit the rim. That was an unbelievable shot. And to trust that kid to get that done, it just shows that, they buy into the coach buys into these players. And, again, even as a parachute fan, I'm not going to say that I'm a huge, watching every game, but, it's hard to not see this team is buying into this coach, which I think is going to serve them well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That shot was my go-to shot in grammar school.
That was for horse. Was that your horse shot, Teddy, to knock everybody out?
Exactly.
That was my Nerf. That was my Nerf shot, the Nerf ball, like in my little living room when I was a kid. Just
it was great. Shot. We used to play intramural basketball in high school, and Mike, you know this. Jeff, I'm not sure you know this. My high school, we had 2 guys who went to the NBA. So we had Mike O'Corin and we had Jim Spernacle, and O'Corin was in my grade. So we were on the same team in intramural basketball. And all he used to say to me was, for some reason, he could never remember to call me Ted. He called me Danny all the time because of my last name. And he would always say, as soon as they shoot it, run to the other basket. I mean, O'Corin was 6'8.5", 6'9".
Yeah.
He would rip down the rebound, throw it to me, and I would just lay it up at the other end. Now, it didn't go in all the time. I was probably like a 45% layup shooter, like what's his face, Reese from the WNBA. She can't put in a layup either.
Angel Reese.
But yeah, that was.
But he got the ball to you every time, so you had a chance to make it.
I had
every time
chance,
he got to you.
Yeah. So, but that was it. So, but yeah, it is exciting. This is what worries me. What really worries me is, I think that in a year or two, schools like St. Peter's, like High Point, they're not going to be competing in this anymore because the nil money is absolutely out of control. And I just don't see how they can compete. I think they're almost, this is crazy, they're almost going to have a separate tournament. When I was a kid, I hate to go back to that. When I was a kid, they had 2 tournaments. They had the NCAAs and they had the NIT, both by invitation. Okay. You didn't automatically qualify for either one of them. And there were 16 teams in the NCAA, and I think there were 16 in the NIT. And and teams actually turned down the NCAA to go to the NIT because the NIT at that point, all the games were in New York. So, and then the NCAA said, this is embarrassing. We're not going to do this. And then they just blew the NIT out of the water. But I think that's what's going to happen. I just don't see that there could be another St. Peter's or, Siena gave us such a thrill, almost beating Duke. But I fear that this is not going to happen because every single good basketball player, none of these little mid-majors are going to have a really good player and the other despicable thing is as soon as a mid-major has a player that's really good and everybody notices them, they get recruited while they're still in the school to go to another school. That's despicable.
Yeah.
You're in the school, and I understand why they go for the money. Money's money.
Yeah.
You got to go for the money. But I think it's just going to be a rough spot. I really do. It's sad. It really is sad in a way.
Yeah, the NIL thing is such a weird topic because the NCAA and these teams, they make so much damn money off of these kids. So in a way, I'm happy they're getting paid because they should.
Yep.
The question is, are they getting paid too much? Are they getting spoiled too early before they go pro and they get the spoils before they do anything of significance in the pros? Is it, like you said, Uncle Teddy, is it ruining the sport to where a St. Peter's, go down the list of the teams, right?
Florida Gulf Coast.
Are they getting weeded out? Like it's a very weird thing. I don't know. I don't think there's a good answer for it because, again, I'm happy these kids are getting paid because, again,
Sure.
If the NCAA made no money or they were they were a nonprofit, then I would say screw it. They shouldn't get paid. These kids are getting education. They can move on with their life and do something different. But they should get paid. But is it ruining the sport? It's a very, very weird dynamic.
I think there's definitely a happy medium somewhere in between because obviously, yes, they should be getting paid. I think it should be getting paid what they're getting paid right now because that's what the market is, demanding for them to get paid.
Right.
But the fact that you can just go from school to school to school, I don't want to play for this guy. This guy yelled at me the wrong way, so I'm going to go to a different school, or this school is going to pay me more this year. That's the part that I think needs to find some way to get under control because that's where everything gets crazy, where you have a guy who's played on 5 different teams in the 5 years he's played college basketball because he's bounced around because he didn't want whatever the coach said to him or he wasn't going to play enough or somebody was throwing him more money. That part, I think you should have to sign a contract with whatever school you're in to get that going and stick with that school. Just like a coach does. There's offset language in those coaching contracts when if you leave to go to another school, they don't have to pay you. The other school does. You don't get any more money than what you were supposed to get paid. So I think that system would work. And that way, at least you have some sort of stability when it comes to the teams and you can sort of build something as opposed to, year to year having a totally different roster every single year, because that's where people get disappointed and kind of lose interest because you never know who the team is. You're rooting for the guy, the front of the shirt. You have no idea who these guys are because it's a brand new team every single year.
Yeah. And part of the beauty of college sports, and Uncle Teddy, you and I have talked about this so many times, it's like the opposite of the pros, right? It's just kids who want to play. And now it's turning into the pros in a way where they're only going to select a certain place to go because of a coach or because of a payday they're going to get. So it's sort of infiltrating college, the things that we don't like about professional sports. So, there probably is a happy medium, Mike. I agree. And it's got to get figured out so the sport doesn't get ruined more than it is already.
And I also think that the conferences, too, should be providing these schools some money. Like the MAC should be able to give each of these schools a good amount of money to, like the money that they get from being in the NCAA tournament, they're one team. And if they win, and I think they're still actually getting money from St. Peter's in the Elite Eight, I think, still for another year or two in terms of the additional revenue. So I think that those schools should be splitting that up between everybody. So that way, at least they have a chance to at least build a team, because that's how those little teams are going to get there. They're not going to get there one and done like the big schools are. But if they have a team that's built together and built the right way and has a coach that knows, how to game plan, there still can be those upsets that would happen. I mean, we were very, very close to having a couple of really big upsets and having some more double-digit teams than one or two in the Sweet 16. So it's not that far off. There are still those opportunities for those teams to get in and, make some noise in the tournament.
You want to add a good twist? If you're in the top 4 seed, if you're a top 4 seed and you get upset in the first round, the next year they can't rate you higher than at 8 in the tournament.
I like that.
How about that?
Hey, I'm all for it. I love, like I said, I want to see a couple of upsets. I want to see a Cinderella team, but we're going to get some great games here over next weekend. But we will put the NCAA tournament to the side. What is that I hear? I hear a lawnmower going. I hear the crack of a bat. I hear some popcorn popping. I hear hot dogs on the grill. It is the night before opening day, folks. We have made it through the winter. As of tomorrow, when we tape this, as of Thursday the 25th, there will not be another night without baseball until October of this year, which is amazing. We made it through the winter, guys. Let's get into this. Let's talk about how the off seasons went for both of our teams, what our outlook is for these teams going forward, and then we're going to have a little fun with some over-unders and some picks for the teams after that. But I'll open the floor to you guys. Thoughts on the offseason and expectations for this year?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, listen, I feel really good about the Yankees this year. This idea that, running it back is a bad thing is ridiculous. First of all, we're running it back with a full year of Cam Schlittler. We're running it back with Garrett Cole coming back in either late May or early June. And if you want to call this running it back, must I remind everybody, the Yankees finished the year last year tied for the best record in the American League. So if we're going to run that back, I'm in, man, right? So this idea that it's a bad thing that the Yankees didn't do any big splashes is crazy to me. So look, if you can add 2 very good starting pitchers in Cole and Schlittler to that air quote running it back team, you should feel really good as a Yankee fan. Like, listen, this team is going to make the playoffs. This team will be one of the best teams, if not in just the American League, but I think, in my opinion, they'll be the second best team in baseball behind the Dodgers. Now, I'm going to say this on the negative. And even though, I talked about this a little bit last week, and I'm so adamant on this, so I'm going to keep saying it until it happens. Spencer Jones should be playing baseball at the major league level opening day. And it's absurd that he's still playing at the lower level. And I'm going to make a bold prediction to you guys right now. I think that the guy that's batting right now in spring training, he's batting 187, no home runs, a career 218 hitter in Trent Grisham. I think he's going to be replaced by Spencer Jones within 45 days. I really do. Trent Grisham had this outlier season last year, even though it was followed up by a horrible postseason performance. I think we're going to see Spencer Jones elevated in the major leagues before people think. I really do. And I think it should happen now. I really should. I really do. But as far as the Yankees, listen, you're running it back with the same team that did amazing last year. So I have no problem at all with what they did during the offseason. And again, I think they're going to be I think they'll be the second best team behind the Dodgers in baseball. What do you think, Uncle Ted?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Yankees, I agree with you. I mean, running it back, you know what? If you run it back and you get the same results as you get last year and you're going into the playoffs, who knows what's going to happen in the playoffs? You got to get to the playoffs to find out what's going to happen. So I think running it back is good. I do agree with you. I think that Spencer Jones is going to be up soon. But here's where I think the problem's going to lie. The problem's going to lie is because they're going to still try to get the most they can out of Grisham. And I think it's going to come at the expense of Spencer Jones's playing time. The other thing is we forget that there's another guy down there in the minor leagues. And I don't know why Met fans are more higher on this guy than even Yankee fans are. The Martian. I mean, I just don't understand. I really, what are they afraid of? What are they afraid of? I said this to you, Jeff, the beginning of last football season. don't be afraid. When we were talking about Jackson Dart, don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid to love, I think is what you said.
Right. Exactly. Don't be afraid to love. And I think that if you had Jason Dominguez and you had Spencer Jones in the lineup for the Yankees, I think that lineup for the Yankees, that could be a World Series lineup. I really think so. And
the only problem is where do you put Dominguez? Where do you put Dominguez?
You got to find a place. You got to find a way.
DH.
That's the problem too.
Too many
Why
DHs.
don't you put Spencer Jones at DH and put Dominguez in the outfield? Oh, but then what are we going to do with Stanton? Cut him. Just cut him and eat it. For God's sakes, you can't. I just don't understand what they do sometimes. And listen, my team does the same stupid crap all the time too. But what are you doing? You have such talent there. How long isn't Spencer Jones like 25?
He's 25 years old.
Right. Holy God. How long? What are you going to bring him up? What is he going to be like? The Natural? He's going to be 36
just trade him at this
bring
point.
him up?
Or trade him and get something back.
No,
what is he?
You can't trade him, Jeff. I'm not going to sacrifice future championships for a current championship.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think the Yankees running it back is I don't see a problem with that.
No,
other than I think the only mistake they made was signing Trent Grisham.
That was the only mistake they made in the offseason. It really was. That was the only mistake they made.
It showed
that was a panic move
in them. Right.
That was more of a panic move when they lost out on some of the other big free agents that were out there. What's his name? That signed with the Red Sox.
Yeah, I know. There's so many damn names.
Yeah. The guy was on the Astros, then he moved over there. Yeah, exactly. When they lost out on him, I thought he was going to be a lock for being with the Yankees, but then when they moved on from
Tigers
him,
it's. But I mean, show some resolve. You drafted these guys.
Yeah, and I mean they took a while to bring up Aaron Judge too.
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron Judge was in the minors for a long time. He did not come up as a young kid. And you saw what he's become. So maybe that's what they're looking to maybe do something like that here. But still, I would agree. I think Trent Grisham has a very short leash. I think that Anthony Volpe obviously has a very short leash when it comes to that, especially with Oswaldo Cabrera coming back and what he's been able to do sometimes, as a shortstop. So I think those two guys need to have a good start to the year. Otherwise, they could be seeing the bench very quickly. But what's nice is they have players to fill in these gaps. You're always going to, you're going to have injuries at some point. You know that Stan's going to hurt himself at some point. You hope that, Judge stays healthy for most of the year. You hope that these pitchers stay healthy most of the year. But you have, an abundance of riches when it comes to the pitching staff. I mean, Luis Gil is not even on the opening day roster because he's not in the rotation to start the year because they have so many off days to start. Right. They're starting with a 4-man rotation right now. So, they're going to be, and they have a very soft schedule to start the year. They have the Giants, the Marlins, and I think maybe Seattle. And I don't know who the team in between the Giants and the Marlins is, but their schedule to start the season is very soft. So, it's important they get out to a good start and, get this thing rolling.
Yeah, which I think they will.
Uncle Teddy, are you happy that Benj is...
Very happy.
Yeah, you should be. It reminds me of why I want Spencer Jones up here, honestly. Let these kids play. But I figured you'd be happy about that, but I was curious.
Because you know what the alternative was? I really thought they might have done if Benj struggled in the preseason, they might have gone after like Nick Castellanos, somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they still might, just to have a guy on the bench. But I'm glad that they didn't. I'm really glad they didn't. And I'm glad they let this kid kind of, go out there, win the job. And they didn't just play him every day. You look, there were a couple of times where, in a week, he sat 2 or 3 times because they were trying to find somebody to jump up and win that job.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the other thing I'm excited about, though. I think Brett Beatty had a tremendous spring training. I think he batted well over 350. And, he said, I finally feel like maybe I really belong here. And I think that's a big thing. The guy who I don't think this guy has any shot at being with the team the whole year is Vientos. Vientos was 2 for 29 during this,
Yeah.
And he was not much better when he played for Team Venezuela or what, whoever he played for. I don't know which team it was, but I mean, I'm sorry. I think Vientos is done with
And
us.
you were
At
high on
least.
Vientos too,
I
right?
was. I loved the
Yeah.
guy, but all of a sudden, I mean, if you can't hit, I don't care what your name is anymore. I'm too old to worry about that.
Yeah.
If you hit and you pitch, you're gonna play.
Yeah.
That's it. As who is the guy? I always remember that Yankee. Whenever I say that's it, I always think of the Yankee guy who said,
You
"We
play the
today,
game, you
we
win today, and that's it.
That was the best. But yeah,
Yes.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to watching the Yankees tomorrow night on what is it? Oh, I don't have Netflix, so if it's not on MLB or something, I'm not seeing it. So that's great.
So you're gonna miss the WWE guys that are gonna be in the booth and the
How
and
stupid is that?
Jameis Winston doing backflips on the mound. I guess I heard too, right?
And let me just say to everyone who's listening to this, be kind to your parents and grandparents who are going to call you up later tomorrow night, asking where the hell the Yankee game is on and trying to help them get Netflix on their TV to get to watch it. So you know where you watch the Love Is Blind show where Grandma watches that? That's what it's on. You got to go to that, Dad.
Listen, listen. I get it, man. I know how business works. If it makes dollars, it makes sense. If it makes sense, it makes dollars. I get it. But this is baseball. There needs to be some kind of moral compass with baseball, an old-timer sport, right? This isn't football. This isn't mixed martial arts or Mike Tyson fighting Jake Paul where, grandparents aren't going to care about. This is an old-timer sport. So to have these people have to call their grandkids to figure out, how do I download Netflix? How can I stream this? Can you come over? And to me, listen, I can't say it's like I hate using this word, but I'll use it, a scumbag move, because it's making them money. So I understand why they're doing it. But it pisses me off. Even as somebody who has Netflix and I can download any stream I want, no matter where it is. It annoys me because baseball it's the pastime, right? To have it on these streaming platforms instead of a place where everybody can watch it. I don't know. Maybe as an American, that just really pisses me off. It really does.
But the other thing is too that in football, when the Jets or the Giants are on one of those pay platforms, they play it on a local stream so you can watch it.
Yep.
Baseball doesn't do that. See, that's where baseball's losing their fans.
Yeah. And it's the most regional sport of all the ones too. So it's like you have to get those fans in to be able to watch the games in order to keep the teams in it, the fans in it.
Now, is that on, like, let's say they're on whatever, Apple TV or Paramount? Is that the same, or is it just Netflix where you can't get it on a local?
No, Apple TV, they don't have them on either.
They
don't do it on Apple TV.
Oh, wow.
Either.
Okay.
No.
I thought this was just like a Netflix where they
it's Apple TV and Netflix. But Netflix only has the opening day games and they have the home run derby, I think, this year, Netflix. I think that's the only baseball they paid for. And they paid like $70 million for two games and the home run derby or something crazy like that. So, you know.
Which is so strange. Like, they put out, I know they have a ton of money and they make a lot of money, but like, how many new subscribers is Netflix getting from putting on these like, whatever sporting
No, but
events?
it keeps you from canceling. It keeps you.
It does keep. Yeah, that's fair. That's a good way to look at it, I guess. Like, how many? Like, they'll get some older people, I guess, who like will subscribe and cancel or whatever.
Right.
You're right. It does keep you from canceling. It's a good point.
At this point, any streaming service that has sports on it, I'm in. I have to sign up for it because it's like you gotta watch all these games. So it's like I'll bite the bullet and watch it for the 5 minutes that it's on. The sports are on, and then I probably won't watch it. I mean, my wife watches all these streaming shows and everything else that she does while she's there, but I only watch it when the sports are on. So but. If I was a single guy, I'd still be paying for them, even though I'm not watching any of them because they have sports on it. That's the way it is.
Mike, I got to throw this by you because this is right. What I'm going to say is right up your alley. Go on YouTube and search out the game show Vault. And you know what they're playing? The Battle of the Network Stars.
That's great. I love that
Episode
show.
1, 1976. Jimmy J.J. Walker playing volleyball.
Yes.
Farrah Fawcett hitting a golf ball.
Yeah, it's great. I used to watch those all the time back in the day when they were on. They were on like Channel 11 at like on like a rerun for in the middle of the afternoon when the Yankees were on like rain delay or something.
Jeff, this was the guy who told me when we were working together. He was all excited. He finally got DVR services to his cable system. And I said, "Oh, that's awesome." And I go, "What are you recording?" He goes, "I'm recording The Price is Right."
So Price is Right and Jeopardy. Those are the two things that are on my DVR right now.
And my only response was, "You should not be allowed to have a DVR."
That's amazing.
Oh.
But yeah, we are excited here. So we're going to go into our picks now when it comes to the teams. So we're always going to do Yankees and Mets over under. And then I want you guys to pick 3 other teams over unders. And I can give you the numbers on them in case you want to know what those numbers are for different teams. And I will, we will kind of write these all down, and we'll probably check in at Memorial Day, which is usually the first check-in, and hopefully these are still a chance to win. So so let me pull up the futures here. I thought I had them open, but wins over under. There we go. All right. So Yankees and Mets are both at 90.5 wins for their over unders. So we'll start with those two first. Jeff, you want to go first for Yankees and Mets?
The Yankee one makes no sense at all. It's less than it was last year, and they're getting a full year of Cam Schlittler with Garrett Cole coming back. So that makes absolutely no sense. I'm 100% going over. And I think the Mets are going to go over too. Even though I know some Met fans aren't happy with some of the changes they like. You could say some of them offset each other or whatever. I think the Mets had a weird year last year. I think they were a lot better than what their record reflected. So I'm going to go over for both teams, for the Mets and the Yankees, both over 90.5.
Teddy?
Yeah, I'm going to go over for both also, although I think I wrestled with the Met one because, they won 83 games last year. I do think they're better. I don't think they're going to beat that 90.5 by much. They might win 91 games, but I'll go over on both teams.
I think we're all in agreement. I think we're both over on all 3 teams. I think the Yankees are probably in that 94, 95 win range that we were last year. Yeah. And I think I'm right with you, Teddy. It's probably 91, 92 for the Mets. And I think both teams will be battling for a division title. So, who wants to go first for the other 3 that they have?
All right, I'll go. My other 3, I'm going to take the Phillies under. I think the Phillies are 86.5?
Phillies are 89.5.
Oh, 89. That's easy. Under.
Even better.
Under. I think the Phillies are one of those teams that they were right at the precipice, and I think they're going to be dropping back. There's a lot of crap going on in Philly with Bryce Harper, the Nick Castellanos thing. I think there's a lot of real weird stuff going on there. And
they're not getting any younger. Harper's not getting younger. Schwarber's not getting younger. Everyone on that team is not any, Alec Boehm and those guys are not kids anymore. These are, aging guys who have I think you're right. I like that one a lot. It's not one of the ones I picked, but,
in the vein of John Lovitz, the Phillies are going crazy and I'm reaping all the benefits. Yeah, I think the Phillies go down. And you know what? I think Atlanta, 86.5 down below that.
All right.
I think the genius of Atlanta is finally gone. And I'm going to pick one more. I'm going to take Pittsburgh under. What is Pittsburgh, 78.5?
Pittsburgh is 78.5, correct.
I'll take the under on Pittsburgh. So 3 unders. on those.
Okay.
So yeah, that's me.
All right, so I'm going to start with the Dodgers. And Mike, what was their over/under? What was that number?
The Dodgers are
1-0.
102.5.
Yeah, I can't go over. I can't do it. And listen, the Dodgers, we know how good they are. I get it, but injuries happen, and these super teams that get formed, they usually make the playoffs and do well, but they're usually not as good as
Sasaki's hurt right
advertised.
now.
Yeah,
Rory
saying.
Sasaki or whatever.
And there's going to be more injuries to come, more than likely. So I'm going to go under for the Dodgers. The Boston Red Sox, 87.5. I'm going to go over. Somehow, some way, even after they got rid of Rafael Devers, they got better. Like, the Red Sox are a good team, and they're dangerous. That whole division's really good. So I'm going to go over 87.5 for the Sox. Uncle Ted, I'm going to disagree with you on the Pirates. I think they're going to surprise some people this year. They got Brandon Lowe from the Rays. They signed Gregory Soto. They got a home run hitter in O'Hearn, mixed with Skeen, who I think is the best pitcher in baseball. They're not making the playoffs. They're not going to crush teams, but I think they're going to be in the low 80s this year. So I'm going to go over on the Pirates, 78.5.
All right. So I'm going to go with the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm going to go under 88.5. I think the Bo Bichette loss is going to be pretty big for them. I think, Vladdy is not getting any younger. Just like I said with the Phillies, I think they were close last year. They should have won the World Series in that World Series against the Dodgers, but I think you're going to see a hangover with that team this year. So I'm going to take Toronto under 88.5. I'm going to stick with my pick last year that I really loved. I'm going to take the Cincinnati Reds over 80.5 wins. I think Tito Francona is still got his magic working for him. I think that team's got a lot of young kids on it. I think Ellie De La Cruz is going to have a year if he can stay healthy. And, give me the Reds just to, be over 500 and be in a chance to win that division. And then I'm going to take an interesting one. I'm going to take the Miami Marlins. Like, I did a last minute switch here. Miami Marlins over 72.5. I think they might surprise some people in that division, especially if you think that the Phillies and the Braves are going to fall back. I think that the Marlins are a sneaky good team. They have some really good young kids on that team. They're a little scrappy bunch, and I think they could easily get to, 75, 76 wins. So those are my three picks. So write those down. We will check back again with those on Memorial Day and see how we're doing.
Mike, that Marlins pick might be the pick of the night. I should have picked that. I'm with you.
72.5 is not a lot. So,
no, I didn't realize
I think
it.
that's
And they have a good manager too. That manager's he's very, very good. He brings that team together. So 72.5? I'm surprised.
72.
That
I mean,
wow.
Because of their division, you got the Mets, you got the Phillies, you got the Braves in there.
Yeah.
So those teams are all in the high 80s for wins. So I think that's probably why that number was so low.
Right.
But now let's get to our nitty gritty picks here in terms of, I want to hear division winners for each division, a wild card team, and then I want to hear World Series matchup and World Series winner. These are all going to be locks, guys. Make sure everybody writes these down, and I'm sure they're going to come back to us and haunt us later on.
Oh yeah.
But who wants to go first?
I'm doing this in real time, so I'll go first. So the AL Central, give me the Tigers winning the division. AL East, oh boy. Woo! I want to say the Yankees so bad, but I don't know. Yeah, I got to do it. Yankees. I got to do it. It's going to be the Yankees or the Red Sox, I think. But I'm going to go with the Yankees. Let's move on to the NL East. NL East, I'm going to go with the Mets. I think the Mets win that division. The NL West, Dodgers, obviously.
What about the AL West?
AL West. Astros. Give me the Astros for the AL West. Did I miss any of the divisions?
NL Central.
NL Central, let's go. We go Brewers.
And then one wild card team from each side.
From each.
No,
yeah.
One AL
You don't
wild
know.
card and one NL wild card.
Yeah, AL wild card. I'm gonna go Red Sox. NL, I'm gonna go Braves. And then the World Series matchup, you know where I'm going.
Yep.
Dodgers,
Yankees, Dodgers.
Yep.
Got to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Teddy?
All right. I'm going to pick the Yankees, the Guardians, and the Mariners to win the divisions. Wild cards, all 3 wild cards come from the AL East. Baltimore, Boston, Toronto. National League, Mets, Brewers, Dodgers. Wild cards, Cubs, Phillies, Padres. Dodgers versus Boston in the World Series. Dodgers win.
All right. I'm going to take, shocker to everyone, Yankees, AL East. I'm going to take Minnesota Twins in the Central. I'm going to take Seattle in the West. And my AL wildcard team is Teddy's favorite, Baltimore Orioles, is my wildcard pick for the AL. NL East, I'm going to take the Phillies. I'm going to take the Cincinnati Reds in the Central and the Dodgers in the West. And the Mets are my wildcard team from there in terms of making it to the divisional round. And I'm with you, Jeff. Yankees, Dodgers, World Series, Yankees in 6. Hopefully that game's at home if they have a better record than the Dodgers, which I don't think they will, but I'll win it in LA because they won it where we were at home in Yankee Stadium. So let's win it out there in LA and have some fun out there at Dodger Stadium.
I like it.
All right. So the only thing left to do now is to get to the mush picks from last week. And I have one for this week as well. So last week we had the 3-person dart parlay. We had Luke Littler. He won 6 games to 3 against Stephen Bunting, so that's a win. We had Gerwin Price smoke Josh Rock 6-0 in his matchup. And then Michael Van Gerwen won because Gian Van Vliet had kidney stones and did not participate in darts. I didn't realize that kidney stones would prevent you from throwing darts, but that's what happened. So 3 winners. Mikey Mush win all the way through. So we've talked about basketball. We've talked about baseball. You know what sport we forgot to talk about, guys? We forgot to talk about football. And it is opening weekend of the UFL this weekend, guys. That's where I'm going with my Mikey Mush picks. Give me the DC Defenders -3.5 at St. Louis. I think St. Louis is going to fall off this year for them. So give me the DC Defenders on Saturday, the 28th. Give me the Dallas Renegades -4.5 at home against the Houston Gamblers. And then we have 2 new teams in the UFL this year. I'm going to take the Orlando Storm at home -1.5 against the Columbus Aviators. So those are my 3 picks. And I'm also going to throw in a bonus pick of taking the Orlando Storm +550 to win the UFL championship this year. So Mikey Mush's picks. It's still football season, guys. Football never leaves. We will be doing UFL and then the draft and then schedule, and we're right back into football again, guys.
First of all, was there a player? Was it darts? I think you said that was Josh Rock. Is that his name?
Josh Rock, correct.
I wish that was. I might change my name to Josh
Great
Rock.
name. Jeff
what
Rock.
A name.
He got smoked though. He lost 6-0 in darts. But
doesn't matter. When you walk out, your name is Josh Rock. It's all good.
How about this though? In hockey, guys are playing. Jack Hughes has 2 teeth broken out of his face, and he's all beat up. And he could play hockey. And this guy has a kidney stone. He goes, I can't throw the dart. I can't throw it. Oh my God.
Him and LeBron can share their cramp stories while Jack Hughes is playing with no teeth and bleeding from his face.
Yep. And guys are playing with no ligaments in their knees and still skating and scoring goals in the NHL. So different breed.
Yep.
But this has been a fun one, guys. We had a jam-packed show, a little longer than usual, but it was so much fun to do. Again, please like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody that you know that this podcast exists. We've been going now, I think we're over 50 episodes, guys, that we've been doing of this.
Yeah.
And we love doing it, and we do it for everybody else out there. So please like, subscribe, send us an email, patheticpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what we think. Let us know what your picks are for the MLB season. We will see you all next week. And
hey, Mike,
guys, this was so much fun.
I got a shout out to the person who claims he was our first subscriber and first listener, and that's Will Reapy. I saw him at a Patty's Day party, and he mentioned something about the show. I said, "Oh, how did you know?" And he goes, I listen to the show every week. What are you disrespecting me? I said, oh, here we go. I said, all right, so I'm going to give you a shout out this week. So that's my shout out to Will. Will, stay safe out there. Will is a state trooper. Stay safe, Will. Stay safe.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. This was so much fun this week. And again, tell your friends, and we will see everyone next week.
See ya.